How's your last afternoon going? Well, excellent. We are going into our next lecture, which is Boom Sustainability Designing to Create Culture, with André Soares. He's a natural builder, a permaculture designer, and educator. He founded the Permaculture Institute in Queensland, Australia in 1997, and then Ecocentro IPEC in Brazil in 1999. Since 2006, he guides the transition of Boom Festival to an inspiring beacon of grassroots sustainable living. Please welcome André Soares.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to, before we start, I'm just going to ask the people that actually came for that purpose to move around, get a bit closer. I would like to get a little bit more of warmth. I'm feeling a bit cold in here. So we're going to have a quick conversation about culture, about design, about Boom Festival, the intention behind this, and somehow how does that connect to the responsibility that we have for making this, for putting this on, for inviting you, for receiving you, for looking after you the best way possible, and what do we expect from it, and maybe what we hope from it. I like to see myself as a designer, and I think lately I've been looking at everybody around as designers. And before we talk a little bit more about design, I need to talk about other designers. I think we are all designers. And I invited two great designers from Boom team as well to be part of it. So I need to introduce you also Tiago Machado. Tiago is the responsible for the image design, the graphic design, the visual images. The things that I'd rather you're looking at the images, actually they're looking at me. You know, I get a bit self-conscious when I have a lot of people looking at me. So there's much better things to look at. And Tiago is responsible for that delight that you might have by looking at that. And also I would like to introduce Mariano, the sound designer. The guy, Mariano, is here under Master Margarita, and is another person that inspires me in Boom Festival. Another person that's been showing me the value and the power of sound, music, how design of it can actually connect to physical things that we do, to our movement on this earth, and what we leave behind, and the intention behind what we do. Music just can tune you right in, and I'm thankful to Mariano for teaching me a lot about this. So, designed to create culture. I think to talk about sustainability, and as if you may notice, I have done this talk, and this is the 5th time that I talk about designing a sustainable festival, for whatever that means. And I decided to take the word sustainability out of the title in a way, because I think that word is already so loaded, so charged with misunderstanding. Then when we try to do something from the heart, and you try to do something that can actually have a real impact and change, which is the word that we're looking at, you have to put away a little bit of all this brainwashing that is going on. We need to understand what is our culture now. Who are we now? There's so much confusion at the moment in terms of the state of the world. And yes, I feel like I don't want to think about it too. I don't want to look at what's going on. And there is a lot of manufacturing of opinion going on. And in my experience of 20 years trying to design sustainable spaces, trying to design things that people can occupy and live and have the sense of humanity, the sense of community, the sense of vision, the permanence on the land, in my experience, we need to look at design from away from these labels and boxes that we've been put on. I mean, the way the world today is awash with misinformation, and where we get our information from is completely corrupt in general. So it's hard to know what to believe. It's hard to know what to expect. And I don't have any divine message or divine mission here. What I do have is maybe the report of an experience trying to live with the earth from the basic things, from the very bottom line. And when I started to come to Boom Festival, to transform Boom Festival to something of a vision, I asked myself, is it possible to have a sustainable event like this? Is it possible that, is it good? Is this good? Should we do this? Should we keep doing this? And if so, how does it need to be done so that we can live in peace with ourselves by doing this? I mean, I want peace. I want to be in peace. That's the only reason that we do things in a way. And as we are all designers, we need to understand the origin of it. Design comes from the Latin, designio, which in a way, it's like we give the future. We give the vision. We see and then we make it. That's design. That's design. That's to give a purpose to something. And sometimes it might mean something out of nothing. So I could start here with a list of features that, like last year I tried to do this talk in that way. I gave the numbers that we have here of what we've been trying to do for the last 10 years. We can talk about that, and I hope that we develop into a conversation. I hope that you guys have a lot to tell me, and I usually learn a lot more than I can actually teach anything by the questions that you bring, by your perception. You know, that's the most important factor. Design is give a purpose to something. And when we look at that, what is it that we're giving a purpose for? You know, our former speaker, Scott, that is here, it's an honor to have Scott Pittman in the audience. Scott was my teacher a long time ago. And he said, what are you going to do after Boom? And that's the whole question, isn't it? A lot of people are in a state of stability, a certain dynamic stability that is closely linked to this system of misinformation that we talking about. And we do this because we believe in awakening. We do Boom because we believe in an awakening experience. We do this because we have experienced awakening. And if there is such a thing, then we must be asleep, or we must be in another state. That we're looking at this, and we look at the world, and we hear the news, and we hear about carbon, and we hear about climate, and we hear about waste and pollution, and everything goes on as it's normal. We look at things like shit, human shit, which is an icon of what we do here. Why is that? Why do we bother so much with toilets here? Do you have any idea what it takes to make 348 toilets that you must have used by now? I hope. And to keep it in condition, to be accepted, and to not break the awakening, because that experience is something that could easily break somebody's good vibe. And that's what we have been noticing in a way. Why do we do that? Because it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for everything else that we have to do. If we don't look at our bottom line, and let's start with that, shit is our bottom line. If we do look at that, and if we don't know where does it go, and why does it go there, and where it should go, after all, are we from this planet? Are we from here? So where should it go? And how? And if we don't put that metaphor in the middle of your experience here, everything is just entertainment. And I tell you one thing, I'm not in the entertainment business. I'm not interested in entertaining people anymore. I actually never have been interested in entertaining people. It's not something that I ever got much interest on. I'm interested in change. And what we're doing here, all of it has to have a connection, not only with the practical solutions of the very simple things of life. And you see, for me to remember what are the very simple things of life, I keep looking at my own hand. I do that for many years now, because I have 5 points, 5 fingers that remind me that I need to be responsible for my own life. I need to be responsible for what I do here, and I hope that everybody feels that same responsibility. We cannot delegate. There is no third party to be delegated to for the responsibility of being alive here, doing what I do. And what is it then? 5 things. I need to be responsible for my food. How is that? How can I be responsible for my food? Well, I got 2 options out of that. I got the option of learning and doing and growing it, but not necessarily it's something that everybody needs to do. How can we be responsible for our food if we're not gardeners and we don't actually have never experienced that? Even though it's an experience that I suggest everybody should at least try. Put your hands in the soil. Some people haven't put that since they are about 3 years old. They haven't got their hands dirty with soil since a long time. There's certain microorganisms that live in the soil. That when they get in touch with your skin, you actually absorb them. You actually start a relationship with these microorganisms. And they encourage, and that's scientifically demonstrated, that your brain starts producing more endorphins when you are in touch with these microorganisms, which means if your brain is producing more endorphins, you are happier. You are a happier person. Well, who doesn't want to be happy, eh? So put your hands in the soil. Soil, first finger, first point. Food, that's where it comes from. You have the option of making a community, building a community so that other people can grow the food for you. You don't have the option of keep eating and continuing doing what most of our society is doing now. Is choosing food from a poisonous system. We don't have that option. We shouldn't have that option, even though it has been the easiest option. Another finger is water, of course. How can we be responsible for water? How can each one of us be responsible for our own water? That's again, it's pretty much close to food. It's you either collect, capture it yourself, learn about quality of water, learn about how does water is such a mystery. Learn at least a bit about it, because we will never know everything about water. Such a mysterious element, such a powerful thing. It's us. We're talking about us when we're talking about water. And we have that option to be responsible for it by going for it, by looking after it. Or we have the option of building community, getting together so that other people like us can help us capture, hold it, control the quality of it. What we don't have, the option that we don't have again, is to allow the ones that we don't know to control the water that we drink and the quality. Or do we trust? If we trust, that's an option too. We can always trust. We can always hand out responsibility and let them looking after us. I never was happy with that. Personally, and I have to be personal, open, and absolutely honest with you. I never had that trust in the system. And I never liked the quality of the stuff they offer me. Really, I never enjoyed chlorine. Even though now we seem to be in a chlorination ritual of the planet, I never really liked it, Or fluoride, that's a funny one. Fluoride, we're still putting fluoride in the water. And then we build parameters, standards, international standards, and then they get adopted nationally. That's a funny thing. International standards for water quality, but each nation has adopted standards for the water quality. What does that mean? That it has to be, for some it has to be more pure and for others less. For some it has to be more chemicals, for others less. For some, it's interesting, I was just noticing, I'm from Brazil, and I have been building a project there for the last 17 years in the middle of Brazil. And I follow the standards of potable water. And curiously enough, I noticed that from 2 years ago to this year, somehow the water standards legally allow for more uranium in the water. That we used to have a very small limit of uranium in permissible water standards. Now we can have more, a radioactive element. I wonder how did that happen, how these parameters get changed. All of a sudden, are we more tolerant to radioactivity? Or is just the fact that there's more radioactive elements in the water and we just gotta keep people calm about it? It's just questions in my mind and things that we need to bring it here, to the very basic experience that we have in our backyard. This is our home. Another thing is energy. We are suckers for energy. We don't even realize how much energy we use these days. How much energy do you think you guys need for that music over there to be coming here now, over this one? How much kilowatts do you think is be pushing there? How do we justify that? How do we justify that we're going to use that energy to push out these frequencies? And the funny thing is that another metaphor, because you do come here for that, that is full over there now. There's a whole lot of people there. And you tell me, are they getting entertained? Or they're seeking something? That's the, I have more questions than answers. I can confess right now, And I hope you bring questions too, because it's about questioning anyway. And then we need to look at our materials. We need to look at our home. How is our home made? What are we using? What are we doing? We're talking about, compostable plastic. That is just sort of a new thing. And that's how we eat in compostable plastic, made of starch. So it's not a petrol-based substance anymore. But these things have to be looked at in scale as well. If you think that one shipping container, I think it's a safe guess to say that most of you guys are Europeans. It's a sample of the population in Boom. It's very diverse, but obviously with a predominance of Europeans. One shipping container to come from China to here, bringing very essential items, or not, that you need here. And I don't know what's the essential things that you actually guys need here that need to come from China. I don't know, right? But one shipping container, the largest diesel engine in the world, there's 15 of them, carries 15,000 containers, and uses and pollutes and sends as much carbon to the atmosphere as 10 million cars. 10 million cars moving from China to here in every shipping container, pushing carbon to the atmosphere. And what are these containers carrying? That's a research I didn't do, but I might do one day when I have the time. I find out how much of what comes in here, in this particular continent, how much is essential. We're talking about essential things. And we're talking about materials, and we're talking about what we're putting in, what we're bringing in. Tomorrow boom is over. Tomorrow everybody goes. And we are left with boomland. Boomland and whatever you guys and everybody else leaves behind. And the only reason you're going to leave all this behind is because you brought it in here. And the only reason that you brought it in here is because you thought you needed it. And then you probably by now figure out that you brought too many clothes. Didn't have a chance to wear all of them, eh? There's a lot of dresses that couldn't even go to the parade. Too much baggage. There's a lot of stuff. When we talk about perspective in terms of scale, what we do here is try to reuse the same materials over and over and over again. These bamboos that are supporting this shade, they are here since 2006, if I'm not mistaken. So is the walls. That's bamboo, the fastest growing wood in the world. Yes, it did come from a long distance, which is something that has to be accounted for. So the connection is really how much awakening can we proportionate in comparison to what it really costs in terms of earth, and how fast can we recover from you after you left. Me and the billions of microorganisms that are living right now under this carpet here, and all the wildlife here, and all the trees that are here, all these oaks that have been here for so much longer than we are. And all the impact that we've been doing on this land. And in the next talk, you're going to be hearing more about, this ecosystem. And for 9,000 years, we're here. At least we know that we've been around here for up to 9,000 years. That is a long time. And now we're looking at maybe having to leave. And the fourth essential thing that came a long time after I started to think and work and try to manage the four essential things. The last thing is the thing about the waste, is the thing about the residue. All of this, somehow, we leave things behind. And the bottom line of that is our shit. If we don't deal with our shit, if we don't take responsibility for that, that doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be an individualized thing. Like, we're taking care of it for you here. It's a community. We take that onto us. We take that responsibility onto us, and we do our best to do it with all the available and possible resources. But we need to talk about it, and we need to think about it. We need to bring it down to the realities of our daily lives, A lot of that would be completely worthless if everybody comes back home the same. Go back to as Scott said, go back to the bank job or the corporation job, or even the alternative community that's living off the unemployment subsidy. That's not freedom, that's not independence, that's not autonomy, that's not in tune with the space, with the land, with the environment. Of course, there are essential jobs, essential positions in this evolved society that we can envision. Of course, there are very important activities, very important professions, but it has to be all new, it has to be all reviewed, it has to be all seen from the base again. What we're trying to do is patch up a machine that is already showing signs of breaking down fast. And this patching up it's not going to make it. It needs to be rebuilt. Maybe some parts of the machine can be reused again, but we need a new machine. We need a new way. We need a new perspective, a new scale of things as well. I'll tell you, Europe's not going to go much far in the same way that it has come over the last 1,000 years. There's big changes in the world. There's big changes happening. There's massive awakening enforced on us. So what we've done at Boom this year is looking at 5 points, and that's what we've been doing over the last 10 years. And I say 10 years, 5 booms, because the work here does not stop. When the festival is over, a community of people remains. A community of people looks after this land, takes responsibility for this land, and it continues the work. And going back to the energy factor, living on renewable energies, that's possible. There's less music, less power, less people, numbers. We can balance the energy account on that way. That's how we try to do it. But the real balance that we build, that I hope for, and I don't have a way to measure, maybe one day people will measure that. But the real balance that I hope for, it's the change inside of people. It's that's where we're going to look for the balance. It's not so much in carbon accounting. It's not so much in waste recycling. That's just a palliative, really. It's a way of keeping the sick alive. Waste recycling. We need to find the way to zero waste. It's not impossible. It's not out of reach. There's so much that we already know. There's so much technology available to us. There's so much already there that really all it's needed, in my belief, is intention. It's the intention, the collective intention to do it. So that was just to provoke a conversation. That was just to provoke a discussion, a debate. I'm much more curious about you. So I would like you to just take some moment, enjoy this music that Mariano is doing for us. Enjoy the images. Try to lift yourself up from this space that we're here now. Try to see from these photographs, it's possible to try to take one step back, and under the light of what I have been discussing or provoking you, I want you to ask a question. Not from me, maybe from the audience, maybe from anybody. But what is the question that you came here to get an answer for? Oh, there's always somebody that's got a fast arm there. So I'm going to start asking, do we have a mic for the audience? That guy over there. Oh, thank you.
Good evening. I want to make it short.
Please.
I was at the Fusion Festival in Germany, and there's one thing I want to point out. It's that there's only vegetarian and vegan food allowed, so you can't buy anything else except of vegan and vegetarian food. And this is something, it was amazing to see that, and I'm just very curious why you don't have it here at Boom Festival, because the Boom Festival for me is something like alternative society,
Yeah.
and eating meat, don't eating meat should be an alternative.
It is an alternative. Don't eating meat is an alternative. As much as choosing what you eat according to what's really available locally and produced in harmony with your surroundings, whatever that is also an alternative. There is not only, it's not only, there's not only one alternative. You know, when we put a box of the alternative life around it, what I see is dreadlocks, earrings, nice cool clothing, expensive but poor looking, in a sense of dusty, and a lot of misinformation around it, you know. Alternative to what? Yes, your choice of not eating other animals might be the perfect one in your reality. And I don't know what you eat as an alternative. I hope it's not soy protein from the Amazon. I hope it's not brown rice from Philippines. You know, I hope it's not tofu from China. But you can eat a healthy life, a healthy diet. You can have a healthy diet. You can choose a non-animal diet where you are, if you are connected to your neighbors that actually are connected to the land and are connected to the ancient art of agriculture. Not what we think agriculture is. We have corrupted that word as well, just like we have corrupted sustainability, and we have corrupted hippies, and we have corrupted consciousness, and we have corrupted every word. That's what the system does. It pays to take possession of our language, of our communication. And the word alternative has been corrupted too. We don't know really what that means. But what we do know is that the ancient art of agriculture is with us. We have learned how to domesticate other living beings. You know, we're not the only ones to do that. Ants also do some farming. They do farming too. Other organisms can farm. And we have learned to do that too. We have learned to do that kind of stuff. In tune with our surroundings. The bottom line of your question, and I'm going to conclude that because I want to give more time to other people. The bottom line of your question is that it's about understanding where we are and about the connection. I believe most of the paranoid problems that we have in our society today are, the source of it is that when we're about 7 or 8 years old, when we take the children and put them in care centers that we call schools, that have been designed specifically to create that misinformation box and to perpetrate the machine that doesn't work. You know, we need to de-school ourselves to start think again about these concepts. So that's why we do give the option here. That's why we think people need to have the option. We were supposed to have Angankak here, a guy that lives in Greenland, that practically only eats meat. You know, it's very hard to grow veggies in the ice. So there is no absolute alternative and solution. There is only understanding where we are, understanding our surroundings, looking at the land, reconnecting. We are disconnected. It's reconnection. And then we got the answer for that, I think. We will get the answer for that. Maybe we'll get to the point where we only need like the poison bar here that sells poison, because we believe in choice. You know, we believe that humans at some point need to have the absolute freedom to choose. Absolute, you know. We don't believe in telling how people should live their lives. You know, we gotta give that experience here. In the community where I live, everybody is vegetarian. But it's a choice. That was too long. More questions? Thank you.
I just have a question about deschooling. I mean the children.
About?
The children. How to
Children.
the transmission. How can we can get this to the children? Get this
Beautiful. Beautiful question.
this opening, this awakening.
Thank
Because
you.
it's difficult in our society.
Thank you for your concern. Thank you very much. I'm a grandfather, so I just became a grandfather 3 years ago. So I just really thinking all over again. Yeah, I think, how can we do it? I read once a quote, and I don't know, I apologize because I don't know who said that. But there's only one way of teaching something. There's only one way of teaching something, and that's by example. So that should answer the question, isn't it? I mean, we want the school, we delegate the school to put values into our children that we are not capable of putting. I mean, do I really want that? Do I really want those values in my offspring? When we talk about responsibility, one of the greatest responsibilities for our offsprings, we make babies. If we make babies, it's our responsibility. You know, that's one of the main reasons that people do change. You know, I can say for myself, when I became a father, everything changed. Everything changed. It's like going into a trip that you don't come out of. You know, just like that. Another reality, fatherhood. But you gotta be ready for that. You gotta want that. You gotta, you know, not. Of course, fear is a natural reaction too. I was a very scared father. I was very afraid of it. You know, 9 months of panic, and then another 4 years of chaos, and then stabilizing, and then Then my daughter was 4, and I see, what am I going to do? I can't put her in school. I don't believe it. So I have to make this space that will be her school. That's when I decided to make a big change in life, and I shift from one side of the world to another side of the world with my daughter, with the family, and move into a piece of land. There was nothing in it. Set up a tent with the family there and start digging the soil. That's what I did. And we've been digging there and stirring things up there for the last 17 years. And that was all the example she needed. You know? A few years ago, she was invited to go to a discussion in Kyoto about the whole climate agreement. And she was invited to represent the youth of Brazil in Kyoto. She's never been to school. You know, but she can say that how is to live on the land. How do the animals teach you things? How do the small things teach you everything? all the magic of life, all the magic of dancing with it. That's the school. All you got to do is talk about it, be open to it. All you got to do is give the space. You don't have to be any master of anything, you know. It's a beautiful thing to see a child coming up like that, you know, understanding the world around her. And then you help her to interpret it. It's just that. It's really simple. You know, children, they teach you everything. You don't need to be scared of it. You just let them. They are born perfect. They come perfect. And they reach their peak about 8 years old. And then we can either help to the decline and put them in school and start the decadence until we die, or we can let them blossom in their peak and continue into adulthood as creative, magic people that we all are and should be. That's it. Right? More questions?
My question is about the legalities and any obstacles you had to face with the festival or even with your own living situation.
Okay, that's a good one. It's a funny one, though. I mean, it's kind of an inevitable question. I can say personally, as me, not as representative of anything, I have never asked permission to do anything. You know, what I did was to try to find out what's the best choice in each situation, and I do it. And I'll find out if that's legal later. That's how I have lived most of my life. I don't know if I could recommend that for everybody. I don't want anybody getting into trouble. You know, you gotta know where you are. You have to know where you are. You have to know the reality where you are. And if you can't deal with that sort of stuff, you can do what I do. Find somebody else to deal with it. You know, some people are some people are a lot better than I am to deal with that kind of stuff. You know, but really, it's all a question of language. If you go back to legalities, we're going to go back to our laws. We're going to go back to the parliament or the political system, whatever that is. We're going to go back to who wrote that and how was it written and what was the intention behind that and what was the lobby on that, and then you get to the laws and the regulations that you have around you. It's the reality, it's the cultural, political reality that you live in, you know. But it's really a matter of language. How could I exemplify this? Once I built a straw bale house in Australia, about 19 years ago. And I didn't know of any other straw bale houses in Australia. And we had to convince the guys to let us build a straw bale house in Australia. And obviously, I mean, straw, you kidding? I mean, you're talking about like this Brazilian guy wants to build a straw. What do you think we are here in the third world? You know, we don't have straw houses here. You know, we have plantation pine, and we have gyprock smooth walls, and we have, you know, plastic outlinings, and we have all the paints that we use to create a real toxic environment so that you can have your children in, you know. But how did we get to do that? Was just explaining it in a way. It's all about language. It's all about what you find the words for it. So that straw bale house was never a straw bale house. It was a double reinforced, super thin concrete wall, insulated with natural fiber. There you go. You know, we also managed to get an adobe house, a mud brick house, financed by the Brazilian housing bank. It's a superpower bank over there. And they don't even know they have financed the first mud house in Brazil, in a public housing. And they don't even know that. It's all about the language. That's it. That's how we deal with that. And we go along, and we get a lot of backlash on that. There's a lot of people worried about it. There's a lot of people that really believe in it. There's a lot of people that think if the regulation is dead because people have done a good job in doing that. Yes, maybe so. But again, you have to rely on your own personal individual judgment. Is it really? Look at the regulation and look at where you are. And you tell me, after you look at the water, after you look at the soil, after you look at what's around you, and after you have tried to learn enough of that, you tell me if that's right or wrong. And you choose. It's, in the end, it's a personal choice. You know, I don't think it's an excuse to do anything wrong because it's in the regulations. You know, it's no secret that I don't like chemical toilets. Those things that have formaldehyde in it and are practically the only thing allowed in the regulations. You know, I don't think that's right. Why do we have them? Because of the regulations. There are some here. Some things you just can't get around. And it's also because of the limitations. Cost a lot to make this kind of toilets. It's a lot more expensive to make an ecological toilet these days in that kind of scale. But we still go for it. And we find a way to do it.
Okay, thank you. I would like to know the recycling bins that you have. Like some places it's just general waste, and other places it's organic and plastic. And obviously, in the future, will it get like more choices for recycling rather than just a lot of general waste places?
Yeah. Well, this is one, as I said, this is one of the biggest challenges, you know. You're talking about public behavior and you're talking about conducing that, but you're also talking about the regulations. You know, why is it like that? Because we got to look at who is going to, we're not permitted to recycle anything here on site. The law makes us take it out of here. We got to take it out of here. Okay, that's the law. We don't have permission to do that. So we need to look at who is the entity or the organization or the company, whatever, that is doing that. They can do that. And we got to ask them, like, how do you want it to happen? How do you want it to get to you so that you can bring us back that material, that we like it and we want to reuse it? As you've seen all the lights, it's an attempt to upcycle more than recycle. Because I believe much more in upcycling. You know, I think a plastic bottle is much better as a lamp. You know, has a much better life, a much better function, a much better purpose. Unless you want to keep reusing that. But they're not made for that particular type of reuse. So that's a big challenge. That's a big challenge. I think there is something that we still can reach in that point. I think, honestly, that we haven't actually understood the communication aspect of waste, the educational opportunity here. And it's not being easy, but there is a great opportunity here. Not easy to organize in such a scale, in such a locality, in such a culture. There's a lot of things about that. But you also have to understand that waste also became a high interest in the conventional box. You know, I call things like that mafias, you know. It's just a way of simplifying the explanations, you know. But I think there is a mafia of the waste that needs to be looked at, you know. Things maybe could be easier and make it. But I also think the whole thing starts way before the event, you know. I think we need to hit this obsession with consumption that we have. You know, I can't believe that we have like pieces in the media they're talking about what to wear for Boom. You know, I can't believe that. It's like, it's nonsense. What to wear for Boom? Oh, you need the piercing that, and you need the belt that, and that's. I think I love watching people, you know. Whoa, there you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. All right. Okay. No, nothing else said. You know, it's. I think it's answered. And you have a question, so now you gotta please stand up and ask your question.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
So my question would be, how much fossil fuel are you using during or before, or like how have you made any calculations about it?
120,000 liters of diesel. You want numbers? It's easy.
But what does this represent? Like,
That represents a huge problem.
I mean, what is it used for? Why it cannot be? Yeah. Okay.
Mostly.
Okay.
Mostly. You see, we have changed the lights here over the years, and now we have very much have cut down to less than half what we used to need in terms of energy for lighting. Now it's like we got these genius creative designers that fortunately are not here too, but the guys that are making these lights, they get a amount of rubbish, and they got one of those old projectors from a theater that's got those LEDs. They got like 120 LEDs, and they pull that shit apart because that's mostly aluminum box to look expensive. It's mostly, and this is old-fashioned things, but most of these new projectors are just a big box with like 120 LEDs and a little controller box at the back, and it's empty there inside. And he pulls that apart, and he has 120 LEDs, and then he gets all the water bottles that we've been drinking here while we build Boom, and turns all of them into lamps, and it spreads all over the land. And that can cut down to, in terms of lighting, the best way to look at energy is to break down into the use you make for it. Like Boomland is occupied by a small group of people during the whole time. That is completely solar. There's 4 solar stations. The 4 solar stations produce almost 100% of the energy needed to be here for this group of people and to maintain the land. And then for 4 months, it starts building up the need for more energy because and then we get all of a sudden we have like 400 creative people from all over the world, from 46 countries. We had people this year building Boom, and they come here and start bringing that energy in, and that's the energy that we need to boom. How do we turn that around? Yes, well, solar would be great, but the amount of solar panels that we need for that is we just simply can't even get close to affording it. Again, we're talking about mafias, we're looking at energy, and then that's the big one.
Just one quick thing. Have you considered somehow lowering the volume on the stages? Because the volume at the main stage
Lowering the volume. Yes, we have. Every year we do a lot of experiments.
Yeah.
Every year we do a lot of attempts. Do you want to say something? Yeah?
Yeah, it's a big problem.
We're talking to the sound guy here. And it's one of the most conscious person I know that actually look at this whole thing and think, well, look, how do we do this? It's just a big question mark, and we welcome all the help in the world to solve that. But it's also the demand. There's also the demand that people have for a certain volume, for a certain amount of oomph to get there. But boom. You know what I'm talking about. Don't give me a hard time. You know what I'm talking about. There is that moment. There is the moment. There is the moment of bling. There's the moment of awakening. There's the moment of discovery. You look at this landscape and all of a sudden, yeah, I get it. I get it what I'm doing. What am I doing here? And some people don't, yeah. And maybe they will never come back.
Sorry, you might not answer that, but it's still a question. Might it be rhetorical? I want you to ask, and everyone else to think about today. Can we really have peace? Can we really indeed have a sense of community when we imprison countless of millions of our brothers and sisters of other species in the slaughterhouses, in the factory farms. Can we really have an option of choice whether to take it or not, if it's on the choice? I mean, we all look at the boom as at the future, as at the vision. We need visionaries. And we expect a lot. And in terms, we speak about plastic and about water and about land and about the greatest destruction, the greatest cause of deforestation is animal agriculture. The greatest cause of carbon emissions is animal agriculture, is greater even than the transportation sector combined, meaning planes, cars, ships, trains, everything else. Why are we talking so little about it? It's our brothers and sisters, our family members that cannot speak for themselves or stand up for themselves. They have us. Are you attacking this issue? Are you planning something? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. It's a very good question. Can we have peace? I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I have spent several years as a vegetarian, and then I decided to actually see what it takes to grow a vegetarian diet, to be responsible for my diet, you know. And I was a fierce vegetarian, you know. So I stuck up on the land there. And we had but incidentally we had animals, you know. We had ducks there. The ducks got old, they're still there, you know. They got old, they had names and all that. And I realized that ducks actually did an amazing job. They worked a lot better than I did. You know, I realized, wow, these guys are actually doing much better farming than I am, you know. And I realized they reproduced themselves, and then I started thinking, well, now what do we do with that, you know? And I realized that maybe I have to consider eating the family members, you know. And then I thought, well, yeah, I know some people that actually do that. I had done some work with indigenous people in north of the Amazon, you know, and it's a common thing to eat a family member, you know, actually from a human family member. It's a ritualistic thing. It's about absorbing that knowledge. It's about absorbing that link that the elder had with the space. It's about absorbing the history. It's about also perpetuating history. You know, it's not uncommon to see the consumption of human flesh in the world. I've seen in natural, well, let's say natural ways, but I have seen also in very unnatural ways, like in what we allow to happen in Haiti, for instance. I don't know if when it comes to peace, it's a tough one, you know, because I already said in the beginning, I'm looking for peace. So that means sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't, you know. And I totally agree with you that slaughterhouses, factory farming, this system of mass control of human food is vicious, it's poisonous, it's killing us and it's killing the earth. But that's not only with animals, you know. That's in the food supply system. Vegetables are the same. You know, seeds, you know, genetic heritage, it's all under control. What we need to break out of is not becoming vegetarian, because that could be just simply the easy way out to get a little bit of peace of mind so I can continue in my cool, groovy way of life, eating in the macrobiotics restaurant every lunch before I go to the bank. You know? That's not on. That's not on. So it's about finding the alternative. It's about finding the alternative, you know. I'm not comfortable with just the simple stuff. Oh, now I'm good. I'm doing my bit. I'm not doing my bit, not close enough. Because the bit that we all got to do is everything. We got to put everything in it. We got to put everything in there. It's changing our lives. That's what I think we got to do. We got to go for it. Dive in 110%. And that involves all these questions. I don't have that answer. An answer about peace. Maybe we will get a lot more information about that with the next panel that is coming in that I'm going to facilitate. I'm going to get off this uncomfortable position that I am here as a center of attention, and I'm going to pass to other very interesting people that you just about to, I hope you will hang around to see, that actually do exactly that. They've been doing farming. They've been living that. And they're going to be talking about that and how they do it. And please grill them, because I've got a big plate already. Yeah? Okay, we're out of time. Is there any last question? No? That's it? Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's move on to the next. Please hang around for the next one. Thank you, and boom. If you haven't boomed yet, go now. Thank you.